organize this. This is our third year organizing. And can you believe it that this year actually we have about, CJ, about 2.4K participants throughout the 7 tracks. And for AWS track alone is about 1.3, 1.4K. So yes, congratulations for making it to the most popular track, and that would also mean that it's the most competitive, right? So do your best. The winners will be presenting at the AI Student Developer Conference 2025, which is happening in Sentosa. Will be a fun day on the 28th, 29th of May. You'll be competing with the top winners, as in those here in Singapore will be competing with the top winners from the overseas centers as well. And those overseas, happy to also share that we will be CJ, we can mention this, right? Yes. Yeah, so everyone overseas, the top winners actually will be invited down to Singapore, fully paid trip and accommodation as well for at least 2 to 3 days, so that you can enjoy the 2-day conference, not only attending the grand final, but also participating in the various panel discussions that we have. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes to go. I would like to use the time to thank AWS for this wonderful partnership, right? This has been ongoing since last year. The LLM League has grown so much. It used to be a student competition earlier last year. Understand it has grown to national scale end of last year, and even globally as we speak now. And this is the next step where we are involving the other 5 neighboring countries in ASEAN to take part in this challenge too. So okay, I think on my side, these are some of the messages I wanted to share with everyone, and maybe just a quick direction and of where we are now. The washroom, I believe, if you need to use the washroom, go out, turn left. Washroom is over there. There's a pantry over there, which I have gotten the permission from AWS colleagues. If you need some drinks, you can help yourself with the drinks. The food, the lunch will be available later in the afternoon. Feel free to stay back and mingle with everyone here from AWS AI Singapore. And maybe you can ask for some tips and tricks how to win the competition, because they know well the system, the judging criteria, which I believe later Gen Z will be sharing with you. Okay, I don't want to steal the thunder. Gen Z is a very interesting community focusing on the generative AI community development in Singapore. I'll later pass the time to the Gen Z leads, Ray and Meraldo, to share more about what we have. Okay. Okay, anything else? I don't have a script with me, so I guess, let me see. We have about 3 minutes to go. I'm just curious over here in Singapore, right? May I know who comes from university? Because this is a Poly IT University track, right? University, okay. We have about okay, about 40%, okay. Polytechnics? Polytechnics? Okay, 40%, okay. ITE? ITE? Okay, nice, good. We have ITE reps. You're from the College West? College West, okay, great, yeah. And the rest, I don't think everyone can make it today. The rest are joining online. And we have about, in Singapore itself, we have about 300 participants, 300 or 400 participants across the levels. Yeah, and the rest coming from overseas. Okay, 2 minutes to go. Shall we start earlier, or we just, let them? Everyone ready in the other centers? Are we ready as well? Okay, so without further ado, I'll invite Mr. Khoo Seng Meng, the head of Learn AI, to give a welcome speech. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chandra. So anyway, by the time we set up, it's about 10 o'clock already, Singapore time. First of all, again, my great pleasure to welcome all of you here. Whether you're joining us live here in Singapore, or you're joining us at the AWS office, or tuning in live from the other offices, or dialing in from your home or office, welcome to the launch of the inaugural AWS Regional League, Large Language Model League. So the LLM League started as an idea from the fearless innovators at AWS. They had an idea to gametize LLM fine-tuning, making this very important 21st century skills fun and accessible. And AI Singapore is very proud to partner with them and help them to bring this idea to life in last year's AI Student Developer Conference. And with all good idea, it grows. It went from the Student Developer Conference to AWS Public Sector Day that same year. And then even went all the way down to the global stage at the AWS reInvent in CES this year. So today marks yet another milestone as we start the Regional LLM League, bring together aspiring AI practitioners, not just in Singapore, but from the 5 other countries as well, from Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now the league is more than just a competition, which we hope you all will be able to see that way. It is a movement. And in this rapidly evolving landscape of AI, our goal here is to educate, to inspire, and to empower future AI student practitioners and AI creators, and equipping you with the skills as well as the confidence to build future-ready AI application. By doing this league, we also want to ensure that our region, ASEAN region, is not just keeping up with AI advancement, but also actively shaping them as well. So, as Chandra mentioned, registration has been great, over 1,000 now, and it is actually a testament to the growing enthusiasm of talents exploring AI all across the region itself. So while today is called a launch, it's just but a start of a journey for all of you here. So more details will be shared, but you are aware that the top teams from each countries will get to travel to Singapore to participate in the grand finals. That will be done during the Student Developer Conference, which is also marking the 5th anniversary of ATX. ATX is a Singapore Asia Tech Summit. And it's very special because this year, all the ATX event, including our conference plus the summit, will all be held together in Sentosa. Which means even as you attend the conference itself, you will also be having the opportunity to travel to the other ATX sites to take a look at what Singapore is looking at when it comes to the intersection of technology as well as the region. So, of course, more than prestige is at stake, and we definitely want to be able to reward the winners. So, over 10,000 Singapore dollars is up for grabs, and more importantly, internship opportunities at AWS and the partners for the winners. So this whole LLM League will not be possible without you, of course, the active participants, those of you who have signed up for this competition. So your commitment and your enthusiasm is what helps to make the LLM League possible. So in conclusion, I encourage you to push the boundaries, ask the bold and the right question in your prompt design engineering, and most importantly, whether you emerge as the winners or not, do enjoy the experience, do enjoy the opportunities to be able to interact with fellow AI enthusiasts. So thank you very much for coming, and all the best. Next, I will pass the stage to Philip from the AWS Training and Certification team. Philip.
Thank you. All right. I think sharing. Okay. So before all of you begin on the LLM League, let me introduce first on one of the resources in AWS for all of you. If you want to learn further about cloud, if you want to learn more about generative AI. Yeah. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Philips Koko Prasetyo. You can just call me Philips, and I'm senior technical instructor with AWS training and certification. Yeah. So let me start with this one. So we know that a lot of organization right now is actually trying to use or leverage implementing, utilizing generative AI to empower their work, right? And they are trying to use this technology in many part of their organizations. However, what we see is this one. There's not much talent in the area of AI, in the area of machine learning and generative AI. And therefore, we in the AWS, we try to educate, we try to train more and more people in the area of generative AI. And maybe some of you already know or interact or use generative AI in one way or another. So generative AI is a technology, it's part of a machine learning that can generate a new content, new data as part of the output from this model. The output can be in a form of text, can be in a form of audio or image, or even video. Yeah. So a lot of applications. Later, I will show you one of the applications which is embedded in the skill builder for our learning as well. Yeah. So this is generative AI, and later on you learn about LLM, large language model, which is actually one type of generative AI that focus on text data. Yeah. That focus on text data. One of the interesting things is that you see here code. Code generator is also a form of text generation. Yeah, special case of text generation. And if you look at a lot of use case in generative AI, you see that a lot of people use generative AI to enhance, make themselves more productive, make themselves more creative, and make their work to be more effective. So we see in general, many organizations use generative AI for these four pillars. We see the first one, enhancing customer experience. For example, like in the virtual assistant, chatbot, conversation, to make your work more productive. For example, I can use generative AI to help me with summarization, to perform intelligent search, to help me to generate codes, for example. Yeah. In creative productions, there's a lot of content being generated with the help of AI. For example, like music, images, art, like those area, a lot of generative AI being utilized to generate this content. Yeah? If you have a business operation, for example, you have a lot of document, text document, printed document. You can use generative AI to help you to process this document, even asking questions related to the document that, yeah, in focus. Yeah. So these are some very common use case, and yeah, what I want to introduce you is this AWS Skill Builder. So this is actually our learning platform where we have many different learning types, because we know many people learn in different way. Yeah, so we have digital courses, we have labs, we have game-based learning. We also have exam preparation content that helps you with if you want to plan to take AWS certification exam. Okay, so let me introduce you, yeah, with the skill builder. You can also follow along. I know all of you already connected to the Wi-Fi in your lab, right? Sorry, in your laptop. So you can go to a website, skillbuilder.aws. This is a free resource. It's a learning platform. Yeah. Skillbuilder.aws. You can create free account. Yeah. Use your personal account for we call this account builder ID. So create and sign in, create free account using your personal email. Ideally, this email will be used as your identity, your personal identity in your learning in AWS. Yeah, you type your personal email and then create a password and verify your account. You can take a little of time. Some of you, maybe you already have Builder ID or you know about Skill Builder before, you can just sign in. Yeah. Okay, take your time. I give you probably 30 seconds, 1 minute, including some of you who are joining online. You can use your personal email address to create account. Yeah. Once you create account, you log into this platform. This is actually what you see. This is actually what you see. Okay, let me wait for 1 minute for all of you to sign up, create your personal free account, and then enter into this one. Okay. A few minutes to log in until this one. Yeah. So after you create account, you log in using your account. This is what we call builder ID. And then you'll be inside this skill builder website. Yeah. Do you see that? Few minutes to enter into this. Okay, take your time. Take your time. I think you need to verify your email and so on. Yeah. Yeah, while you are waiting for some of you log in, right? Yeah, going back to generative AI, I talk a little bit on it. Then there are several topics, right? If you want to learn further about generative AI, there are several content. For example, if you just learn about generative AI, you want to know about the introduction to generative AI. Later, I will tell you how to search on that. We also want to build our machine learning system responsibly. There are some content related to responsible AI development, as well as some content related to the essential foundation of prompt engineering, how to develop generative AI solution, or even customizing your own language model. Yeah. You managed to see this? How many of you already inside? Inside? Okay. What about all of you in joining online? Good. Let me tell you, right? So inside this learning platform, what you see here is there are several content. Yeah, there are something called digital courses, learning plan. Yeah, so there are a lot of learning plan as well. There are some content related to exam preparation and yeah, some game-based learning. Yeah, so on top of it, there is a search bar. Yeah, and the search is very interesting because you can search empty empty search, right? So you can search empty stuff, and it will basically give you everything here, right? And there are a lot of content. If you see, there are 67 pages, so there are hundreds of content. Yeah, some of it are available freely. Some of it requires subscription. Yeah, so I give you the tips to get the free content. Yeah, if you want to learn further, you can subscribe, but the free account, the free tier already give you hundreds of material for you to go through to learn. Yeah, so when you search, yeah, you get the search result. You can filter the free one. You can filter the free one. So when you filter, you will see content that is free actually. Yeah, free. And if you see all digital courses that has this icon, is actually free. Actually free. Yeah. So digital content are actually free. So let's say I want to. Basically, there are a lot of content here. So some of you who are probably engineer, I want to learn about developing, you can search here. I want to learn about networking or even security, you can search. Yeah. But since our focus is LLM, Gen AI, let's start with the AI related search. Let's say I want to search generative AI. You can also do the same search. There are a lot of generative AI content. Yeah, a lot of generative AI content here. Yeah. Okay. So there are several content that focus on, yeah, for example, like executive. This is very short one. How to plan generative AI project, introduction to generative AI, some of it. Yeah. Now, if you open, let's open the introduction to generative AI. Yeah. So you can click and see you are inside the course. So you can click, and after you click, this is what you see. Maybe a page, and then there is an enroll button if you open. For me, I already enroll, but some of you will see a page, and then you can click enroll button because it's free. Yeah, it does not require you to subscribe anything. You just click enroll, and then after you click enroll, you can click start course. Yeah, so the course is actually a bite-sized content that allow you to learn as you want. As if you want to learn during your break time, they split the content in very like small chunk that allow you to learn bit by bit. Yeah, and some content has some description, images, and then some example, right? Some even contain a video and some use cases. Yeah, so you can go through all these courses content, okay, including like discussion on what is the risk, what are the benefit of the using generative AI and so on. Yeah, so you can go through some of the content. This is an example of what we call digital course. Some digital courses may contain video. So if I open one that has a video, it will be something like this. Okay. Oh, this one not available for me. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this one, I think there is a video. So the video is a presentation about a specific topic that you can go through. So this is a content that is a video presentation. Yeah. Another content beside digital courses, we also have a learning plan. So anything that under type learning plan, you can also filter learning plan here on the left side. Learning plan give you learning plan on various topic. For example, I'm a developer. I want to learn about generative AI. The learning plan actually bundles several digital courses for you. So the learning plan is actually like a package, right, of a series of digital content, digital courses. So it will be easier for you to go through because I want to learn generative AI as a developer. Yeah. Some of you may be more interested, I'm a model builder. I also can see a learning plan for model builder. Yeah. So there are several content. You can just enroll. When you enroll, basically you enroll to this and then you can go through each of the content. Yeah. Any questions? So I encourage you to try on this and play around with, learn, explore all the content. Some of it may have a badge, but generative AI, I think they still don't have badge. So you can search for content that has a knowledge badge. This is like a learning plan, but once you complete all the material inside that learning plan, you get knowledge, what we call knowledge badge. Yeah. Okay. Now let me give you one more example. This is the last part where I will share one example. This content is actually part of the subscription account in the skill builder. It's called Simulant. So basically this is a lab which has a generative AI component inside. So it starts with the use case, a problem that comes from a business problem. And then basically you help the stakeholder uncover what are the required services to help them. Yeah. So let's go for this one, for a quick one. So I can have a discussion helping in this case, a CEO of a company with the problem. Yeah, and the problem of this company is actually they want to have a chatbot with the LLM. Yeah, and then Simulan has this one, generative AI assistant that helps you in your learning when you build your architecture here. Yeah. So after you see the problem, now we try to build the solution. Yeah. And this is the architectures of the solution. You start by learning what is the first step. Yeah. And then what we are trying to do here. There are some video explaining what happened there. And if you are still stuck, don't know, you can ask this Gen AI assistant to help you explaining some part that you are still not clear. You are still not clear about the architecture here. Yeah. Once you are understand, you know what we are going to build, you do the practice, which actually you get an account to actually build this architecture. Yeah? It gives you step-by-step instruction. So for you who never use AWS, actually you can follow along to do this. Because beside the step, what is nice here is also the screenshot. Not only screenshot, they also provide you with annotation, which make it easy for you. You open this, you see this page, click this, view this, type this, right? Following this one. Yeah. Some of you are very familiar with AWS after doing it several times. You can read the instruction and you can do it quickly. Yeah. So it provides you with all the steps to perform all the necessary steps for this task, and then at the end of it, you complete the solution. Now they have a challenge. You have a challenge to make some changes or make some modification or adding something depending on the lab, and then you try to solve it, and then there is a validation. If you understand the problem, the architecture, you should be able to complete this. There is a hint on doing the task. Yeah. So this is what we call SimiLearn. This is a lab that allow people to learn. Yeah. But this one is under subscription. It's a good example where the generative AI assistant it's being used in the learning, right? In the learning experience. Okay, so so these are some content that I would like to share with you. Explore all the content, not necessarily Gen AI. There are a lot of Gen AI content, but other topic as well like development, security, networking, and others thing. Yeah. All right. So I think that's all that I have now. The last part. Hope you enjoy. Utilize that for your learning. And on Monday, we have this Gen AI Learning Day. Please scan and register that. Yeah, it's on 17th of March, 4 to 6 p.m. Singapore time. This one is Singapore time. Yeah. So you may need to adjust with your own time zone for some of you joining online. You can also go to bit.ly /Gen AI Learning 2025. Let me share with you who are joining online. Yeah? There is a WebEx page, and register with your builder ID ideally. Yeah, with your builder ID, just register it to the session. All right, so I think that's all that I have. Okay, take your time to scan. Some of you are joining online. The link, I shared the link in the chat. Yeah, I shared the link in the chat. Yeah, and that's all I have. Thank you so much.
All right, so let's get started with the AWS Large Language Models League 2025, or LLM League. My name is Ray Go, and together with me I have Meraldo, who will also present to you this workshop, how to fine-tune your own large language model. We are from the Gen C, not Gen Z, Gen C. Gen C stands for Generative AI Learning Community. So we are a bunch of volunteers who got together who are passionate about learning about Gen AI, and we are also passionate about sharing back to the community. So here we are, sharing back to all of you about how to fine-tune your own large language model. We partner very closely with AWS, so our focus is on generative AI using AWS services. And we also conduct monthly sessions at National Library in Singapore. So NLB is also one of our partners and sponsors. All right. Okay, so let me just go through the agenda for today. There are basically four main components, right? The first part, I'll introduce to you what the LLM League is about. So this is about the competition that you're going to take part in. And then I'll hand off to Meraldo, who will then take you through the workshop proper, right? So he'll go through the AWS service that you will use to train your LLM model, right? To fine-tune your model, and also take you through the submission to the leaderboard. So it's a competition, so obviously there's going to be a leaderboard. And he'll show you how you can train, after you train your model, submit it to the leaderboard, and get yourself to rise up the leaderboard. And then for the third part, I will then take over and share with you how you can train, how you can prepare your own data set to fine-tune your model, right? So one of the important components about training a model is preparing the data set. And then finally, at the end of that, we will also share with you, after you've trained your model, how you do an evaluation to evaluate the performance of your model, right? And for the first three parts, there'll be hands-on. The evaluation part is for you to explore after the session. Okay, so we'll do it sort of like lecture style and then hands-on, and then lecture style and then hands-on. So while we are presenting, you don't have to do it hands-on on your laptop. We'll give you time after we presented the slides to do the hands-on, right? And there will be also accompanying PDF that we'll provide to you, which will give you step-by-step instructions. As the stuff that we show on screen or on our slides, you will have a PDF accompanying you on your laptop to go through the steps. So don't worry about taking the screenshots. All right, so quick introduction to LLM League. And the QR code there is basically the Slido for you to enter any questions you have. So if you have questions, the team from AWS and Gen C will help to answer the questions through Slido, right? We won't take the questions live on the Zoom, but they will answer your questions through the chat. All right, so the whole program starts today. So today, the workshop kicks off the entire program. As I said earlier, we'll teach you how to fine-tune your model, we'll teach you how to do your data set preparation, and we'll also introduce to you the way to evaluate your models, the performance of your models. The competition will take place over several weeks, and it will end on the 4th of April, after which the winners will be determined from each of the ASEAN countries. And basically, the finalists will be the winners from each country, who will then all come together in Singapore for grand finals on the 29th of May. And during the training period, when you continue to train and fine-tune your model, you will be given at least 5 hours of model training credits, right? So this is the AWS SageMaker credits. And don't worry about, don't worry if you consume too much of the credits before the end of the competition period. The AWS team will review the usage, and if there's opportunity to give you all more credits, they will. Right. All right, and in the grand finals, what you can look out for is a prize pool of $10,000, 10,000 Singapore dollars. So this is not AWS credits, this is cash, I believe. Right, so first prize is $5,000, and followed by 2005, 1,000, and then 4th to 6th is $500. So basically, if you are a finalist, you're guaranteed a prize. Okay, so that's the quick overview of the competition. And now we're going to go through the exact steps that you need to go through in fine-tuning your own LLM. Before I hand it off to Meraldo, can I just have a show of hands in the room in Singapore? How many of you have used AWS services before or logged into the AWS console before? Okay, pretty good, maybe about 50% or so. All right, so with that, I'll hand over to Meraldo, who will take you through model customization.
Hello, test. Okay, cool. So good morning, everyone. Now that we're all warmed up and excited, let's go into the meat of today's presentation, okay? Which is really to understand more about model customization. Before we go into the content slide, I'm just going to flash this QR code for a bit. So this QR code will lead to that single web page that contains all the links that we need for this competition, okay? And the most important of these links is the top one, the workshop guide. This will provide a step-by-step guidance for the hands-on that we will do later, as well as links to the console, links to the party rock, basically all the links you need, okay? So please go to this website, bookmark this page, as you'll be using it throughout the competition. And also for today, please open this as a new tab and keep it somewhere, okay? So I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds. All right, with that, let's now begin the real content. I'm just going to start by giving you a broader overview of the technologies that we'll be discussing about today. So at the highest level, we have generative AI. And as Phillips mentioned earlier, generative AI is essentially a type of AI that can generate new original content, okay? This can be text, this can be images, videos, and what all these generative AI models have in common is that they have all been trained on huge data sets, and during this process, they're basically learning the underlying patterns and structure of this data set, which allows them then to generate original inputs. Now, within this umbrella of Gen AI, we have large language models, or LLM. And this is essentially text-based Gen AI model. And this LLM works by what we call continuous probabilistic next token prediction. And how this works is, for example, if you use ChatGPT and you put in a question, what GPT-4 model or any model within that ChatGPT will do is that it will list out all of the words, all of the tokens that it knows in its vocabulary, and it will assign probabilistic values to all of them. And then it will pick one of these words, and then it will append that to the context. And it will do so continuously until it reaches what we call a stop token. Okay? So this seemingly simple ability of next word prediction actually then opens up the door to many skills from, like writing your essays, answering complex questions, and so on and so forth. Now, one thing to note is that the LLMs that come directly from providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, they are very powerful, but they might not perfectly meet your specific needs. Okay? And this is where customization frameworks come in. And again, this will be the focus of our presentation, of our workshop. And some of the examples of these frameworks are shown over here. And we'll see later that some of these methods involve directly modifying the model, while others are a bit more lightweight, and they just essentially change the way that we interact with the model. So in the following slides, we'll take a look at 3 of these frameworks in more detail: prompt engineering, retrieval augmented generation, and fine-tuning. Okay, let's start with prompt engineering. So this is by far the easiest method that I'm sure a lot of you have been doing already. And this is essentially writing our prompt in a specific way. So the thing about modern LLMs that you should know is that they are very powerful, but it is really our responsibility to kind of be very precise in our instructions so they know exactly which output we desire. So let's give an example. This is an example where we're basically building a movie review classifier. And we see here in our prompt that we provide the LLM with a few examples to tell the model that this is exactly what we desire in terms of output, which is just the binary classification, whether the review is positive or negative, along with the confidence value. Okay? And we see that with this example, and then with the question appended at the end of the prompt, the model will then give us exactly the output that we want. So essentially, whenever you work with LLM, I think it's always a good idea to really devote some time for prompt engineering, because again, it is typically the easiest and the most cost-effective way to get the output that you desire. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. Now, the concept of RAG is really simple. So essentially, with RAG, instead of asking a question to the LLM directly, you will help it by first retrieving from your database, for example, the documents that are relevant to your question, and then kind of like stuffing that inside your prompt. This is an example, okay? Let's say that we are building an AI call center assistant, and a question from the customer comes in, which is, what is the cashback for a specific credit card? So this kind of question or this kind of information is typically not the information that an LLM will know offhand, because this is not part of open internet, right? So what we do, instead of asking the LLM directly, we will first go to the database, and then we will have basically embedding comparison that enables us to retrieve documents that are relevant to this question. For example, these documents about the terms and conditions of the credit card, and then we will kind of like stuff it into our prompt. Yeah. So with this technique, we can be a bit more confident that the LLM will ground its answer in this factual information from our documents, rather than relying on its internal knowledge, which might be outdated or might be wrong. Okay, so finally we have fine-tuning, which is a method that does involve the direct modification of the model. So at the end of fine-tuning, you will have another model. And on a high level, fine-tuning involves taking an LLM, which we call a foundational model. So the starting point is the foundational model. And we will further train this foundational model using a dataset, and usually this dataset contains some domain knowledge, and throughout this training process, this domain knowledge will be kind of injected into this model. Okay, and this resulting fine-tuned model should perform better when it comes to that specific domain that it's trained on. And yeah, this methodology is the one that we'll be trying out in this competition. Okay, so we have seen 3 ways of customizing the output of a model, and let's put all of this together with a simple analogy. So imagine our starting point, the foundational model, as a student, okay, just like many of you here. So this student, basically, they have already done a lot of pre-training, during which they have acquired a broad knowledge base. They are excellent in terms of their language fluency. However, just like students, these LLMs might have limitation when it comes to like practical or like specialized tasks. And this is where the 3 methods that I've mentioned earlier come in. First, we have prompt engineering. So you can think of this as giving the student precise instructions. Okay, basically you're telling them exactly what you want to do, possibly with some examples of the output that you want. And again, in terms of complexity, this is by far the easiest method. Then we have retrieval augmented generation. This is when you want the students to answer some questions about information that they might not have studied at school. So what you do is that you help them by first kind of retrieving the relevant books, let's say, that you know will contain the relevant answer, and then giving the books to them. So as you can imagine, this is a bit more involved than prompt engineering, because it requires engineering a system to retrieve the correct documents, the correct books, and handing them to the student in a way that will not overwhelm the student. Okay, so there is some complexity, engineering complexity involved, but this is not too bad. And lastly, we have fine-tuning. So think of this as kind of sending the student to a medical school, for example, right? Basically, you are training the student further in a specific field through which you are turning them into a specialist with deep domain knowledge. And just like going to medical school or further studies is not easy and it's expensive, fine-tuning is also the most complex out of these 3 methods. Okay. It requires you to supply the model with training data and kind of think a bit more about the training infrastructure. So yeah, there is definitely more engineering complexity involved. However, if this technique is done correctly, this could lead to a significant improvement in the quality of your model. Okay, so hopefully that analogy helps. Now, from this point onward, we will center our attention on fine-tuning, which is really kind of the center focus of this competition. So let's get a bit more technical about what actually is happening under the hood when we perform fine-tuning. So as I've mentioned before, in fine-tuning, you have foundational models, which are the starting point, and the fine-tuned models, which are the end result. The foundational models, the examples of which you are seeing here, you don't really see them often in the wild, because they're often research focused, and they are rarely used by end users like ourselves. An example of a foundational model is Llama 8B base from Meta. Now a little bit about the nomenclature here. So Llama is the name of the family of the models. 8B means that the model has 8 billion parameters, and the word base means that the model has not gone through any fine-tuning before. In any case, through this fine-tuning method, these base models are transformed into Llama instruct models, which, as their name suggests, these instruct models can better understand instruction, and they can engage in very natural conversation. And similarly, we also have various base GPT models. These are precursors to the various fine-tuned GPT models that power ChatGPT, like GPT-4. Another interesting example is the Sea Lion series. So this is a series of fine-tuned models developed by AI Singapore, which is one of the sponsors of our competition. So what the AS Singapore team did is that they took open source models like Llama 8B Instruct, and they fine-tuned it, and the resulting models, this family, the sea lion family, is fluent in Southeast Asian languages like Indonesian, Vietnamese, Thai. Okay, and these models are open source. So if you're interested in exploring them a bit further, you can go to their model page on Hugging Face, download them, and play around with them. In any case, it is important to note that fine-tuning is not just a one-off process. What I mean by that is that after you have fine-tuned a model, you can continue to fine-tune it further to further improve its performance. And if you've noticed, this is exactly what the AI Singapore team did, right, with a sea lion model. So their starting point was Llama 8B Instruct, which is a model that had gone through fine-tuning before. And during this workshop, we will do something similar. So we will be using another Llama model, Llama 3B Instruct, which has already been fine-tuned before. And we chose to do this so that we are not starting from too low of a baseline. All right, now let's introduce some key terms related to fine-tuning. Okay, so we have talked about foundational models, we've talked about fine-tuned models. Again, these are just the starting and the ending points of the fine-tuning process. Then we have a terminology called supervised fine-tuning. So this is a specific fine-tuning method that we'll be using today. And under this method, we will train the foundational model using an annotated data set. So the example is given here. This is a data set that contains explicit input and output pairs. Okay? So you can think of this as kind of teaching the model by example. And through this process, the model will slowly learn to associate this input with this output. The next term that I want to introduce briefly, because I will talk about them in more detail later, is hyperparameters. So these are the settings of the fine-tuning process that we can adjust. So if you were to think the fine-tuning process as reading a book, for example, and the data that we have will be the book itself, setting up hyperparameters, you can think of it as essentially kind of adjusting your reading style, which is, for example, the speed at which you read the book or how many times you read the book, things like that. And finally, we have evaluation. So this is the process of measuring how well our model performs. And we will learn this a bit more at the end of today's workshop. Okay, so now let's take a look in more detail at how fine-tuning works in the real world. So one thing that you need to know about large language models is that they're really large, right? So they can be like really like up to terabytes in size, which means that they are way too large to fit on our computers. And because of this reason, most of the time we'll be using cloud computing to perform this fine-tuning step. What this means is that we'll rent powerful computers from AWS, for example, to perform the task for us. Now, AWS has a lot of different services for different purposes. For our competition, we'll be using a service called SageMaker AI. So we will see later that this is basically a unified platform that we can use for anything ML related. And this platform is designed to be user-friendly. So even if you don't know how to code, for example, there will be a way to do all these steps using no-code methodology. So it will be in the SageMaker AI that we will find our base LLM that we will fine-tune. Again, we'll be using Llama 3B Instruct. And it is also in SageMaker AI that we will adjust the settings, the hyperparameters of our training job. And we also need to specify where our training data is. So for AWS, we usually put the training data in another AWS service called S3. And you can think of S3 as kind of the AWS version of Dropbox, basically. So in SageMaker AI, we will tell SageMaker where exactly in S3 is our data located using the address, a specific address called S3 URI. And then SageMaker will understand where exactly to retrieve this data. And that's basically it. So after specifying all this information, the base LLM, the hyperparameters, and the address of the training data, we can just do one click and SageMaker will take care of the fine-tuning process for us. Okay. All right, with that, that brings me to our first hands-on session of the day, where we will perform fine-tuning on Amazon SageMaker AI. So just a quick kind of rundown of what we're trying to do here. This is the exact same slide as before, but now I'm just going to say the steps explicitly. So these are the 5 steps that we need to do right after this. We will need to first log in to the AWS console, and we'll need to go to SageMaker AI. And then in SageMaker AI, we'll select the base LLM that we want to fine-tune. Again, it will be Llama 3B instruct. And then for this first demonstration, we have already provided a sample training data for you, which is in S3. So we will also need to basically just give the exact S3 location of this training data. And then we will tweak 2 of the hyperparameters that I will show later. And that's it. And after doing all that adjustments, we can just do one click and we'll kick off the fine-tuning process. Okay, now I'm going to walk you through the process. So I recommend you to just watch me do the demonstration, okay, rather than trying to do that at the same time. This will take like less than 5 minutes. And then after that, we'll give you 10-15 minutes to repeat the steps. And again, just to remind you, we do have this very helpful step-by-step guide. Try to open them now, that you will use as a reference. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so do have this ready. So the first step is, of course, to go to AWS console. Now, there are 2 ways to do this, and I'm going to show you the easier way first. So if you open the PDF instruction and you go to page 3, you will see these URLs. Okay, this is the URL of AWS console that directs you immediately to the service that we're using, which is SageMaker Studio. So you can use this, basically. Remember to change the ending of this URL, the number, to your group number. Copy that, paste that in your browser. You will see something like this. So there are 3 parts here. The first one, account ID, should already be pre-filled for you. If somehow it is not, you can just go to our Linktree page, and this is the number that is our AWS account ID. Okay, so after you have done this, then you need to fill in your username and your password, which I'm sure you have already obtained in your email, and then click sign in. If you're using that link that I just showed, that should immediately direct you to SageMaker Studio, which is this this page that I'm showing. Okay, so that is the kind of one of the 2 options you have, the easier option. Now let me give you the harder option, which is basically going to kind of the more general AWS console. You can do that by clicking this link, AWS console. And if you click this, the landing page is quite similar. You will need to, again, fill in your login details. But instead of being directed directly to SageMaker, you will be directed to the to the general AWS. Let's give it a try here. Oops. Let me give this a try. Okay, so you'll be directed on the kind of general landing page of AWS. And you might see some errors. Don't worry. These errors are just basically us kind of restricting services that are not relevant to this workshop. But then you'll need to go to SageMaker Studio yourself. You can just type Studio, and then there are a couple of services that has the word Studio in it. So make sure you choose the correct one, which is the SageMaker Studio. And then you will see this page. Now, this is important. because you will need to wait for this page to fully load. This page has not fully loaded, okay? Like, it looks like nothing is happening, but essentially, you need to wait around 30 seconds for the center of the page to fully load, at which point it will change to something else. Let's give it a couple more seconds. It's getting there. Hopefully. Throttling exception. Okay. Probably it doesn't work this way. So what was supposed to happen is that basically you will have a drop-down menu here where you will choose the correct domain, okay? The correct domain, the domain number is the same as your group number. So, so you will choose in that drop-down menu your domain X being your number, and then that will lead you back to this SageMaker. Oh, yeah, this one. Anyway, never mind. So anyway, if you have gone through that step, that should eventually lead you into the same page, okay, the SageMaker Studio. So this is the landing page of SageMaker Studio. This is essentially the unified platform in AWS where you can do anything ML related. Okay, you can train a model, you can fine-tune a model, deploy a model, things like that. And after this presentation, you can feel free to explore more about SageMaker Studio. But for now, I'm just going directly into Jumpstart, which is a part of SageMaker Studio that allows us to quickly deploy, fine-tune, and evaluate pre-trained models. I'll click that. And then I will arrive at this page. This is the page where I can select the models that I want to fine-tune. For us, again, we are fine-tuning Llama 3B instruct. The thing is, there are a bunch of Llama models that have very similar names. So what I suggest you to do is just go to our instruction and just copy-paste this name. This is a safer option. So copy that into this bar, not including the quotes. And then you will see this is the model that we want. You click that. And then we will land at this model card page. This is basically a page that tells you more about the model, like its architecture, its size, its performance. Again, feel free to read this on your own later. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and fine-tune the model. So fine-tuning is a type of training. So essentially, to do that, we'll click this train button. And we'll be directed into a sort of form that we need to fill in. Okay? We need to fill in those informations that I have mentioned to you earlier. Essentially, we need to first fill in where SageMaker can find our training data. So again, for this first demonstration, we have already provided an example training data for you. Okay? And the address is available, again, in the PDF page, which is here. It is the S3 URI that ends in train.jsonl. Just copy that. And in your free time, you can download this and see how it looks just by clicking this link. But for now, we're just going to copy this URL. And I'm going to now replace this default using that URI. For all the other settings, I'm just going to leave them as is. I'm going to go down. Oh, excuse me. Actually, one thing that I forgot is this one, very important, the hyperparameters. Okay, these are the settings of our fine-tuning process. So for this stage, at this first demonstration, there are two hyperparameters that we need to change. Do remember this one. Those two are this one. Instruction train the model. We need to change this from false to true. And the one directly next to it, the chat dataset format, we need to change it from true to false. For the rest, for now, just keep it as is. And then, well, I'm just going to scroll down. There are a bunch of settings. You can read more about this in your free time, but for now, let's just keep them as is. The last thing that we need to change is the training job name. So this is the name that enables us to identify, the model or the training job that we're going to submit. So for ease of comparison between training jobs, we need to be a bit more systematic in naming our training job. So I recommend you to start with your name or your nickname, and then just kind of name, the model or the specific modification that you do for this specific model. For now, I'm just going to name it Model 3. Okay, and then once everything is done, then I'll just click Submit, and then I need to click Accept. Okay, so with that one click, we see that we have basically just submitted our first training job, fine-tuning job on SageMaker AI. Okay, and this is an ongoing training job, and you can now close this browser tab if you want. And once you open it again, you can find the list of training jobs here. Basically, on the left-hand side, left-hand panel, go to Jobs, go to Training, and here you will see the list of training jobs that you have performed before. We see that the one that I've just sent is executing right now. Okay, in like 15 minutes or so, this will go from executing, hopefully, to completed. Okay, hopefully that was clear. Now it's time for you to repeat the steps that I just did. Okay, again, you have all the instructions you need in the PDF file. Yeah, let us know if you have any difficulty. For those of you here in the room, just raise your hand, and someone from our team will help you. Let me stop sharing for a while. I am stop sharing for now. Let me just mute myself.
Just for those who have not got the PDF, you should get it from this link here. So this QR code brings you to the Linktree page, which gives you all the links you need. The first link, which is the workshop guide, is where the PDF is.
What's our target? 15.
Okay, so the facilitators in the various sites will now go around to help those of you who require help. Test. Okay, if you see an error message while loading the SageMaker or AWS console page, if you see rate exceeded error, just wait a few seconds and reload and hit retry. I think it's because too many thousand over of us accessing the same page at the same time. All right. For those in Singapore, we're going to take a 5-minute bio break. And in the meantime, don't click on refresh anymore. So apparently there's been a rate exceeded error on the service. So with the AWS folks are going to rectify that now. And it will help if you guys don't click on refresh in the SageMaker screen right now so that they can resolve it. So we'll take a 5-minute break, and then hopefully when you come back, it'll be good. There's some refreshments, drinks outside. If you want, you can help yourself to it.
Test. So guys, let's start settling in. We will continue our presentation in a couple of minutes. One minute. Okay, got it. Okay, guys, let's resume our presentation. So, yeah, I know a lot of you haven't managed to do the fine-tuning process. Apologies for that. Our AWS colleagues are still trying to fix this issue. But in any case, if you manage to finish the fine-tuning process, excuse me, this is what you will see, okay? So here I'm going back to that fine-tuning job page. You'll see that this is the job that I submitted. You'll see the status is completed. And also this runtime is another important thing to note, okay? 400 seconds. This will be the time that will get deducted from your allocated 5 hours. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. One thing that we did before submitting our training job was to set some hyperparameters. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the hyperparameters. Okay, and as a quick reminder, the fine-tuning process requires 3 ingredients, right? The base model, the data, and the hyperparameters. So in this competition, the LLM is fixed, right? You can only choose that Llama 3B instruct model that I've mentioned earlier. So that leaves us with only 2 variables that you can play with to try to win this competition. Your data and your hyperparameters. So my colleague Ray later will tell you more about the first one, which is training data. But for now, let's kind of go a bit deeper into hyperparameters. Yeah, just as a recap, hyperparameters are essentially the settings or configurations that guide the fine-tuning process. And just now, if you manage to go to Studio, you will have seen a display that lists all the hyperparams that you can adjust. And among all these many hyperparams, you have already adjusted 2 during the setup. You have set instruction train the model to be true, and you have set chat dataset format to be false. Now, these 2 modifications are important because the training data that we'll be using is formatted specifically for instruction-based learning. So after this workshop, when you want to try again, remember to always make these 2 adjustments. All the other hyperparams that you see here on the screen are fair game. Okay, so you can feel free to experiment with any of them to potentially try to improve your model. But I know this is a lot, so I'm going to give you a hint. Among all these hyperparams, the 2 that you should focus on, at least initially, are these two, epochs and learning rate. These two will be the ones that give you the most bang for your buck, at least initially. Let's now dive a bit deeper into these two, starting from epoch. So epoch, as you can see here, is defined as the number of times that the entire training data set is read during the fine-tuning process. Okay, so if you imagine the training process as reading a book, then the book basically being the training, this training.jsonl file that we have specified. Epoch is essentially the number of times that you read this book from cover to cover. Okay, so you can set it to 1, you can set it to 2. Basically, it's always a round number. So is a higher epoch, does it always translate to a better model? Well, not really. So now let's break down the ramifications of increasing the epoch count. The advantage of setting a higher epoch is quite straightforward. Okay, with more epochs, imagine like basically reading a book again and again. Basically, you're giving your model more exposure to the data, right? You allow it to better absorb whatever content is in a training.jsonl. And additionally, the model will also increasingly adopt, the tone and the style of the training data. So if your training data is a bit more verbose, then your fine-tuned model will become more and more verbose. There are, however, some drawbacks that we need to consider. More epochs logically means that your model spends more time training, which also translates to higher cost. And in this competition, again, we are restricting you to 5 hours of training time, at least initially, so you need to keep that in mind. And there is also a risk of overfitting. This is when the model, basically, when you train the model too many times on the same data, it might become overly specialized, right? It might start to basically memorize this training data. And in doing so, it will start to lose its ability to generalize on unseen data. And this is bad because when we release our model to the real world, it will not interact with our training data. It will interact with unseen data. So overfitting is a negative thing. Then there is also something that we refer to as catastrophic forgetting. Okay, sounds very scary, but we can think of it as a more severe version of overfitting. This happens when the model continues to train for a really, really long time, very, very many epochs. And when doing so, it might actually start to forget some of the basic general knowledge that it acquired during the pre-training phase. So as a concrete example, let's say that your training data later have a typo error, okay? And by dint of exposing this data to the model over many epochs, what can happen is that the model might start thinking that this wrongly spelled word is the correct spelling of the word, okay? You're essentially kind of gaslighting the model into thinking that that is the correct answer. And this is, of course, very bad. So keep that in mind when you're setting your epoch. Another important hyperparameter is something that we call the learning rate. And as you know, LLMs are essentially neural networks. And these neural networks, basically, they store their knowledge in the strength of the connections between their neurons. And during the fine-tuning process, some of these weights, some of these connections become strengthened, and some others become weakened. And this learning rate is just a number that determines the speed at which these adjustments take place. Now let's take a look at what happens if we are to increase the learning rate. So first, let's start from the advantages. Higher learning rate translates to faster knowledge acquisition, right? So with higher learning rate, you're essentially asking the model to quickly kind of absorb knowledge from its training data. And in doing so, it could potentially reach its learning goal or its convergence point more quickly. And also very logically, since the model learns faster, then if you do everything correctly, we might need fewer training cycles, which save us time and money. But there's also the trade-off. If you set your learning rate to be too high, then you will increase the risk of instability during training. So what happens is that since this kind of weight adjustments happen very quickly, then the model might kind of miss out the point at which its configuration is at its optimum. So this suboptimal final state of the model will translate to lower performance. Okay, so that actually brings me to the next hands-on session, model submission. Now, I know that a lot of you haven't managed to finish the model training in the first place. So what we are going to do is that I'm just going to show the model submission demonstration, and then we will give you a bit more time to hopefully restart the fine-tuning process if you haven't managed to do so, and fingers crossed, hopefully this time it works. Anyway, model submission. So just to situate ourselves, what we have just done in this diagram is that we have completed these two steps, right? Basically, we have logged into the AWS console and we have fine-tuned our model. Now, remember, this is a competition, so we want to identify who among you have the best models. And in this kind of chapter, we'll show you how to register your model, basically kind of taking that fine-tuned model from SageMaker and then submitting it for evaluation on our LLML website. Okay, so there are 3 steps that we need to follow, and all these will take place on our LLM League website. So you need to log in, obviously, and then after logging, you need to change your alias, okay? So this will allow you, so this alias will allow you to identify yourself on the leaderboard. And then you would register your model, okay? This refers back to the training, the model that comes from the fine-tuning process in SageMaker. And then after registering your model, you will submit your registered model to the leaderboard, okay? And when submitting the model, at the back end, the system will evaluate basically the performance of your model against a hidden evaluation dataset. And yeah, you'll just wait and see and hope that your alias appears at the top. Okay, so now let's go through the demonstration. Again, you will have the step-by-step guide. So for now, let's just see that I'm demonstrating these concepts. Okay, so we have this as our starting point. Okay, remember that this is kind of the name of the training job that has completed. What you do next is that you go to this website. So first you will need to log in if you haven't done so. Right after you log in, this is kind of the landing page that you will see. So the 3 steps that we need to do, first of all, is that we need to change our alias. This is where you will find it. So go to your trainer profile. So you will see your username and your alias, okay? So it is your alias that will be reflected on the leaderboard. And this is also the way to identify you. So make sure you change your alias. Okay, click this and then just choose maybe use your real name, maybe it will be better. Good. So after you've done this, this is just a one-time step that you just do it now, and then it will be remembered throughout the competition. The next step is basically the registration of our model. So to do that, go to this first option, Models Management, and then you click Register New Model. Here we have 2 fields that we need to fill in. The training job name is basically the name of your training job from SageMaker. Okay? So copy this, make sure you copy this exactly, because if you don't do that, it will just fail silently. Copy this. And the model name, model description, technically you can write anything, but to make your life easy, you can just kind of paste the same string also for your model name. Make sure SageMaker is selected, and then just click Next. And then click Register Model. And then you should see your model being listed here. Okay, this will be the list of models that you have registered. Okay, the next step that we need to do is to submit our model on the leaderboard. So to do that, we click on the 3rd link, Leaderboard Submission. Now, one thing you need to know is that there are more than 1 leaderboards, because we organize this competition kind of many times for different audiences. So you need to go to the correct leaderboard. And the leaderboard is identified with an event ID. Okay, so click that, and then we need to enter the event ID. The event ID is written in the PDF. So yeah, so all these steps again are available in the PDF guide. So this is all the steps that I have done previously. Register model. and join the competition. Okay, so this is the name of the event ID. Okay, so again, it's safer if you just copy and paste this string. Okay, so paste that here, click next, join league, and then now you have joined the league. Click submit your model, and then we'll have this drop-down menu from which you can select the models that you have submitted before. Okay, let me choose this one, and then click next, and then click submit. Okay, so this will take a couple of minutes, during which basically your model will be evaluated against your peers and basically against this kind of hidden data set behind the system. And after a few minutes, you will see that your name will appear somewhere here on the leaderboard. Okay. Okay, that's about it for this demonstration. Now it's time for you to give it a try. Why don't you actually first try to go back to the first demonstration? Try that again. Hopefully now it works. For those of you who have managed to, complete your fine-tuning process, then you can just go to this hands-on immediately. Yeah, and let us know if you have any issue.
Test. Test 1 2 test. Test 1. Test. Test 1 2 test 1 2. Okay. Test. Right. Okay, so on screen, is it true? On screen, what you see is the leaderboard. If you have submitted your model, it will then appear on the leaderboard with your training alias shown there, and you can see your position, right? What you want to look out for is the best win rate. So that represents in any submission, the percentage of answers that your model answered that was better than the larger model, right? So what happens is during evaluation of your model will be pitted against a larger model. So you're training on a 3B model, right? So for example, it will be the answers from your fine-tuned 3B model will be compared against answers from, let's say, 90B model, right? And then an evaluator LLM will then decide who has the better answer in terms of accuracy and comprehensiveness, right? So based on that, it will ask, say, 49 questions, and out of 49 questions, how many times your model answered the question better than the large model? That gives you your win rate. So the goal of this competition is to fine-tune a model that can beat a large model with as large a win rate as possible, right? And then whoever has the largest win rate will then obviously be top of the table. Okay, whenever there is a tie, let's say two people have the same win rate, then the tiebreaker will be based on the total number of submissions. So, for example, if there are two competitors with the same win rate of 34, for example, right? Then the one who is deemed as better will be the one who achieved 34% with less submissions, right? So the more you submit, the higher chance you get a higher win rate. But at the same time, if your win rate doesn't increase, you will be deemed lower in rank compared to someone with the same win rate with less submissions. Okay, so that's how it works as you train your models all the way till 4th of April. Okay, so you will be able to see your last submitted win rate as well as the best win rate. So we are only looking for the best win rate. So let's say if you submitted a model with 34% and later you fine-tune another one which didn't perform well, 20%, it's okay. We take your best. Yeah. But obviously the total submission count will go up, and hence when there's a tie, there may be a disadvantage. There is no maximum number of submissions, but let's do the math, right? You're given 5 hours. One training of a fine-tuning job takes about 400 over seconds. Well, depending on your training data set, right? So based on the sample training data set that Meraldo showed, it took about 400 seconds, so say 7-8 minutes, right? You take 5 hours, divide by that, you get about 37 models that you can train, right? So it won't be that many, right? In a 5-hour kind of training window, you might be able to submit maybe 30 to 40 models. And if, let's say, there's a spare capacity after that, AWS gives you more credits, maybe you can train another 20, 30. So I don't think anyone will hit 100 submissions. Unless you submit the same model twice, which won't help that much. Right? Yeah. Okay, so in the interest of time, let me just, hang on, you unshare this. I'll just go on to the next segment, which is how we prepare our own training data set. Okay, and this part you don't have to have access to. You don't need access to the SageMaker screen. You can actually follow along in a browser window. Okay, so this segment is on showing you how we can prepare a training new training data set to fine tune your model without having to handcraft the data set. And obviously, the most important thing in this step is having the right data, right? There are three key components to fine-tuning a great model. So obviously, one is having the right base model, which in this case is a level playing field. Everyone starts with the same base model, which is a Llama 3.28 3B instruct model. And the next ingredient is having the right hyperparameters to train to perform the training job, right? And then the third most important ingredient is having the right data set. So earlier, all of you would have trained, well, as you, even for, if you haven't tried it earlier, when you go back and you try it, when you train your first training job using the sample data set, all of you will have probably the same win rate, right? Because you are all using the same exact data to fine-tune a job, to fine-tune your model. So very likely all of you will achieve around that 30% win rate, which is the base win rate. So if you happen to create your own training data set and you find that your win rate dropped to 20, it's worse than using the default, right? So that's something to take note of. Okay, just a quick instruction how you're going to do it. There is a specific format you need to prepare your data in, and that format is called a JSON-L format, right? So basically what it is a JSON file formatted in JSON lines, right? So that the L, JSON-L, stands for JSON lines. So the file extension must be .jsonl, and the file name should be called train.jsonl, right? So prepare a file called train.jsonl with question and answer pairings, and each question and answer pairing is formatted as instruction and response in a single line. Right? Later I'll show you an example of it. Right? So that's all you need. And the minimum number of question and answer pairs you need to train your model is 50. So you cannot start a training job with less than 50 lines of question and answer data set. It has to be 50 or more. Okay? And 50 is the minimum. Okay, and I'm going to show you now a simple example of how we can synthetically create such a data set using a fun playground called Party Rock. Okay, so what Party Rock is, the URL to this this website is there. It's also in your PDF file. What Party Rock is the Gen AI application playground where you can play around with different widgets to create Gen AI apps. So we've created one sample Gen AI app here that helps you generate question and answer pairs given a specific topic, right? So you just need to key in the topic, and it will use an LLM to generate questions, and then use an LLM to generate answers to those questions as well. And then format it for you in JSON-L format so you can copy and paste into a text editor, and then save your file, which you can then use to submit in your training job. Okay? So this is roughly what it looks like. I'll just show you in a browser so it's easier to see. Okay? Let me move to a browser screen. So the link is here, dataset generator in bracket Party Rock. If you click on that, it will bring you to Party Rock. So obviously, if it's the first time you're accessing Party Rock, you need to create an account. So the account here will be different from the account you had for your SageMaker or your LLM League leaderboard. Right? So this one requires a login either using Google, Apple, or Amazon account. And once you've logged in, you can just use it as is, or you can customize it yourself. So I'll just show you what it looks like if you use it as is. So basically, the competition domain here is about generative AI. So you want your model to be able to answer questions about generative AI as comprehensively and as accurately as possible. Right? So you need a data set that fine-tunes the model in specific domain of generative AI. Right? And there are 4 specific subtopics that you want to fine-tune in. Let me see, where is that? Yeah, so these 4 subtopics would be prompt engineering, foundation models, agentic AI, and responsible AI. Right, so you want to fine-tune your model specifically in these 4 subtopics. So let's say I take agentic AI, right, as an example. I want to create a set of question and answers about agentic AI. So I just put it like that, topic to generate agentic AI, number of rows to generate. I'll just use 10 for example here. You can put more, but just put 10 so that it generates quickly. So I press play here. I need to confirm that I'm a human first. The 4 topics are also in the slides. When we share the slides, you can see it. So here you can see it's generating the questions. So it generated 10 questions. And then now it uses another LLM to generate answers to those questions. Right? So this is an example of how we can synthetically create your data set. You can key in any topic you want, or you can be more specific in your topic as well. Right? It's still generating, but let me just in the meantime show you the configuration. So to generate the questions, I'm currently using a Claude 3.5 Sonnet V2 model. Right? If you customize this application here, and I'll show you how you can customize it. You can actually choose a different model to generate your questions, and you can choose model A to generate questions, LLM A to generate questions, LLM B to answer the questions. So the question and answer doesn't have to come from the same LLM. Right? In this case, we generated both the questions and answers from the same model. Right? So I'm also using a Claude 3.5 Sonnet v.2 to answer the questions. Okay. So once the data is generated, as you can see, it's in the instruction and response format. I can just click on the copy icon here to copy the clipboard. And then I go to text editor and paste it. Right, so let me just. So for example here, let me just create a new one. So when I paste it, you will see it's in instruction and response pair. Just make sure there are no blank lines. Okay, no blank lines. And as I said earlier, you need 50 lines to train your model. Right? So go back to Party Rock, generate more questions until you have at least 50. So this is one example, I have 50. And I have saved it as train.json file right here. Train.json file. So question is asked, answer is given automatically. Right? So now that you have this, you can then upload this file to S3. Because remember, when you train your model earlier, you need to specify a S3 location where your data set is. So the first step you need to do is go to S3 to store the file. Right? Let me just show you that. To get to S3, you need to go to AWS console from this link. Right? And in AWS console, once you've logged in, you will arrive at the home page. Oops. And in the home page, just click on S3, or you can type S3 in the search bar. Right, and you will be brought to bucket. You will be brought to a screen where you can see a lot of buckets. Right, so the bucket where you want to store your file is the bucket that has your group name in it. Right, so in my account, I'm in group 1 account. So I need to go to group 1 bucket to save the file. So you might think, oh, I can go to my friend's bucket and get his model. So answer is no, you cannot. So when you go there, you will get insufficient permissions to go there. Okay, so I can only, because I'm group 1, I can only go to group 1. And then here I can do an upload and upload the file. Okay. So once you've uploaded the file, what you want to do is, so let's say here I've uploaded train.jsonl. You want to copy the URI, the S3 URI, so that you can then paste this address into the training job. Right? The training job will ask for your S3 address. So this is how you do it. Okay. Now let me just also show you how you can customize the widget to answer, create questions and answer questions based on your own prompts, right? If you go to this link, you'll find there is a read-only application. You cannot change it, right? If I click here, show configuration, I can see the prompt that was used, right? But I cannot change it. I can see the model that was used, but I cannot change it. So if you want to change it, you click on this button called Remix. Right. What Remix does is you copy this application and paste it into your own account, and this becomes your own application. Right. So by remixing the default application we've given you, you now have a copy in your own account, which you can then, so I've clicked on Remix. Now I have the same application, but now I can customize it according to what I want. So for example, here for questions, I can change the prompt in any way I want. I can, instead of exam questions, I can say quiz questions, right? And then in the model, I can actually choose different models, right? So one key tip here is you are trying to train a Llama 3.2 3B model. Right, so obviously you want a smarter model to answer questions and to provide a training data set for your small model. So choose a model that is large, right? So don't choose a 8B, choose a 70B or Sonnet model. Those are pretty good large models. Right, so don't use a small model for your when you customize it. And you can play around with different things like temperature and top heat to so these are parameters to sort of configure how creative you want the answers to be, or how varied the words that the LLM is going to use in generating the answers. Okay. Okay, later after that. In the chat. Okay. Okay, so that's PariRock. Basically, PariRock, you can create your own widgets. You can even add new widgets to do different things. You can do more advanced stuff. So, for example, I'll just show you one quick example. I've also created an advanced data generator where I can upload a file. Right, I upload a file, which is let's say the default training data set that they gave, that AWS gave. I load it here, and then from here I can do topic extraction, right? And then based on topics extracted, I generate new questions and answers based on the topics that I detected from the default training data set. Right, so you can play around with PariRock to do more fancy synthetic data generation as well. Okay, so that covers how we do data generation to provide your own custom training data. One thing I need to show you as well is how to validate that. Let's say you have already created your data set. So here I have a set of 50 lines of data, right? Saved as a train.json, or maybe I use this test.jsonl. Now I want to make sure before I submit it, before I save into S3 and submit it for training, I want to make sure it's a valid JSON-L file. Because if it's invalid, I'm wasting my training time, right? Meaning you trigger off a training and then 400 seconds later it tells you invalid training data set, right? Then you have wasted 400 seconds of GPU time, right? So make sure you validate your data before you save it in S3 and submit for a job. And to validate it, you will find that that feature in the leaderboard page, right? So in the leaderboard login, there's a function called validate training data, which you can then use to upload your. So I just created one sample, right? Test.json. Upload it here, and then I click validate JSON. And as you can see here, it says it's a valid training data format. Okay, so this is good for submission. And let me just give an example where it is invalid. So let's say here in line 7, I added double quotes, right? So because your strings are quoted within double quotes, your literal strings cannot have double quote, right? So if you have double quote in there, it'll sort of screw it up, right? You see? Okay, so now I have a one single double quote there that creates havoc in my JSON-L. Now if I take this and I just go here and revalidate that file, and I click validate, it says error on line 7, right? And then it tells you there's an unexpected, it expected this, but it couldn't find. So then here, if you go line 7, you can see, there's an error here. You can actually just correct it in line and then click save, right, if you want. Or you can go back to your text editor and correct it as well. So make sure you do this validation before you submit into S3. That will save you some GPU training time that you might have wasted if it's invalid. Okay. So let me just summarize how you do these steps, right? So step 1 is to prepare your training data set in JSON-L format. You can do your own hardcore research and handcraft your instructions and response, your questions and answers. You can do that. So all you need is a text file formatted as JSON, right? Or you can use PartyRock to help you do that. Some of you might think, I have a ChatGPT account. I can use ChatGPT to do that. Yes, by all means, do that, right? So just make sure you're using a bigger model and smarter model to generate your data to train our small little Llama 3V model. Okay, and then after you've done that, you go to your AWS console. I show you. Go to S3, upload the file. Of course, after validation, right? After you validate, go to S3. Upload the file, and then copy the URI. And then when you go to your training job itself, you will specify the S3 location there. Okay? And that's it. That's how you would do that. And actually, if you think about it, what we just talked about, using another model to create question answers for a smaller model, is an act of model distillation, right? So there's this concept of model distillation where we take a larger model as a teacher model to train your 3B model as a student model, right? So you might have heard of this distillation when DeepSeek was released, right? So when DeepSeek was released, there were other models such as the Quen 32B model, which was then distilled, had been trained using DeepSeek as a distilled model, right? So what that means is you're just taking a bigger, better model as a teacher to train a smaller model as a student. And this, what I just described there is actually doing that. Okay. So model distillation, I think, is one of the secret sauces, right, to rising up the leaderboard. Instead of trying to Google and find question and answers to generate for your training data, using this method is fast and is pretty efficient, right? So I'm speaking I'm giving you this advice as someone who has taken part in the competition last year. So last year I took part in this same competition in reInvent in Las Vegas, right, where they held their first global competition, right, and in that competition I used this distillation approach, using a 70B model to train a 3B model, and that emerged as the winning model, right? So I was the champion at reInvent. So this is advice coming from the global champion that model distillation is a good way to train your model. Okay, so you can do this hands-on right now to use Party Rock to generate your data set. Obviously, you might not be able to resubmit it if you earlier haven't had the SageMaker page loaded, but you can try using Party Rock right now by going through the dataset generator link there. Okay, so we'll give you 5 minutes, and then after that, I think we'll end off with a wrap up to just have a quick description on how you're going to evaluate your model. Okay. Or maybe not 5 minutes, 3 minutes. No, I mean 3 minutes to play around with Party Rock. And in the meantime, we're going to show you a link which you can use to access your SageMaker link.
Yeah. Can you use your
Can. You want to use? Okay. So we're going to show a link on screen which you can access to retrieve your SageMaker Studio direct link, right? Okay. Okay, so the link is tinyurl.com/LLM-league-links. So when you go into that page, you will see a Google Doc containing the URLs for all the groups, and you can locate your group and go to that link. So it doesn't matter if you know the link of another group, because you don't have the login credentials, so it doesn't matter. Right? So go to the one that corresponds to your group, and then that will bring you to the SageMaker page directly. So this should bypass the earlier problem we had. And if any of you are interested in knowing what the finals is like, I'm not sure if it was mentioned in any of the briefing documents that you came across. The finals, so basically now you're competing as individuals, right? Fine-tuning your model to be the best. But once you get into the finals, it will be 6 of you in a game show style setting. So 6 best models on stage answering questions at the same time, right? So you'll be given 6 or 7 questions, and all of your 6 models will be asked the same questions, and you need to do the prompting to generate the answers for it. And then your answers will be judged by both AI judge as well as human judges. Right. So that's for the finals. And I actually wrote a blog on that. So the experience I had at reInvent, taking part in that finals, is in my LinkedIn page. If you're interested, you can read the blog. It's a short blog on what the experience is like. Okay, so with that, I think we'll move on to evaluation. For that, I'll hand over to Meraldo to finish off on how you can do evaluation on the model that you fine-tune.
Test. Okay. Okay, so the idea of evaluation is that after we have our fine-tuned model, we want to kind of understand exactly how well the model performs, right? And this is where evaluation comes in. So we will subject this fine-tuned model to a barrage of tests to quantify its performance. Now, this will be important in the real world. So if you are to work, at a company that uses LLM, you really want to thoroughly test and evaluate your LLM before it goes public. And of course, in our competition, evaluation also plays an important role. And this is a step by which you can understand the performance of your model. And also, of course, at the end of the day, this framework determines who wins the competition. So there are many approaches available for evaluating models. And in this presentation, I'm just going to briefly touch on 3 approaches that you can see here. And all of these approaches will kind of be involved in one way or another in this competition. Let's begin with the first one, which is automated metrics. So automated metrics are just scores that we can compute easily that quantify how closely the model's output matches human responses. And you can do that kind of without a lot of effort. So the calculation of these metrics usually start by comparing the output of the LLM with human output. And let's take a look at one quick example. Let's say that we want to evaluate this model over here. We do that by kind of first asking the model a question, which languages are spoken in Singapore. The model gives an answer, and we give the same question to a human annotator, which will give another answer. And here we see that there is quite a bit of overlap, but there's also some difference. And we really are interested in quantifying this overlap. And to do so, we will use metrics, things like precision, recall, and F1 score. Now, let me just quickly go through kind of the idea behind these metrics. Let's start with precision. Okay, so precision is all about how correct and how kind of to the point the LLM's answer is. So in our example, we have 3 out of the 4 words that are outputted by the LLM matching kind of the human output. Okay, so 3 over 4, this translates to a precision of 0.75. So if you have a model that gives a very lengthy answer with a lot of irrelevant stuff, even though it manages to mention all the correct words, the precision score will be low. So keep that in mind. Recall is another important metric. So recall focuses on how comprehensive is your model's output. So here, in our example, from the human annotation, we see that we have 5 words outputted by the human, 3 of which are also covered by the model. And this translates to a recall score of 0.6. Okay, so yeah, the idea of recall is that if your model misses some key points, then the recall score will be low. And F1 is just kind of a combination of this precision and recall. And you can check Wikipedia for how this is computed. Okay, so after understanding what these metrics are, the next question you might have is how do I kind of calculate these metrics, right, without spending too much effort? And one tool that can help us in this regard is something called SageMaker Clarify. So this is yet another product under the SageMaker umbrella. And this is a product that allows you to easily evaluate your model from different angles, including generating these automated metrics that I've introduced earlier. So unfortunately, today we don't have time to dive into SageMaker Clarify. But again, in the guide, you will have a step-by-step guidance on how you can use Clarify to evaluate your LLM. But let me just kind of walk through the concept in a high level. So to use Clarify, you need a couple of steps. First, you will need to select the model that you want to evaluate, and then you will deploy it. And actually, after deploying it, you can already kind of interact with it kind of ChatGPT style, okay? So you can already kind of see if its answers make sense. But to actually use Clarify, after deploying it, you then select the evaluation dataset, okay? So this is just a series of inputs and outputs against which your model will be tested. And we have also included a sample evaluation dataset for you in S3. And by the way, this is obviously not the same evaluation data that we use in the back end, but it will give you an idea of how your model performs. Okay, so you have you've deployed your model, you set the evaluation data, and then you basically set some other configurations, such as the type of computer that you will use to run this evaluation job, things like that. You can just set those as default. And after specifying all those, again, SageMaker is really easy to use. With one click, you will submit an evaluation job. And after a while, you will get a report that I will show you in a bit. So now in this competition, one thing to note is that using Clarify is optional, but recommended, okay, because it will only help you. Just keep in mind that whenever you use Clarify, 10 minutes will be deducted from your 5 hours allocated time. So use that wisely. Okay, so once your evaluation job is complete, you'll get this report. This report is very detailed, and a screenshot is provided here. And as you can see, this report shows you an example input and output, along with the metrics that I've mentioned before. And yeah, it's very helpful because they actually will define this for you. So there will be some visualizations for you to understand more about what is precision, recall, and things like that. Okay. And yeah, from this, then you can kind of understand what steps you need to take to remedy, your model. Okay, good. Next is LLM-powered review. So here, the idea is that we will be using a powerful evaluator LLM to evaluate the performance of other LLMs. And there's a couple of ways that we can, in which we can do this. And here I'm just showing one of the frameworks. And again, this is the framework that Ray has mentioned previously. This is the framework that we will be using in our competition. So let's say we want to evaluate the performance of two LLMs, okay, LLM A and LLM B. In our competition, you can think of LLM A as your own model, and LLM B will be kind of the bigger model against which your model will be compared. And this will be maybe Llama 7TB, things like that. So first, you will ask both of the models the same question. So LLM A will give answer A, LLM B will give answer B. And then we will take the question as long as both answers, and then we will feed them into yet another LLM, the evaluator LLM. Okay? So this is an LLM that has been specifically trained to compare responses. So it will analyze these responses, compare them on some pre-specified metrics, and decide which answer is better. So yeah, this is an example of the prompt that you can use in this kind of framework. You can see here that we are asking the evaluator model to compare two answers against these metrics, okay? And these placeholders will be kind of replaced with the question and answers, and we just feed this to the evaluator LLM, which will then spit out who wins. And again, this is the system that we'll be using on the leaderboard. Okay, let me briefly just touch on the third one, which is human review. Okay, human review, of course, is required because some scores generated by the previous two methods might not directly align with specific use cases. Okay, so yeah, human review can give you more insights into areas that are difficult to quantify, things like tone, whether your LM is warm, engaging, helpful, biased, things like that. And this is especially important if you want to deploy your LM to the public and your brand reputation is on the line. Oops, let me go. Yeah, so this is a photo from one of our previous competitions. So in our competition, we will include human review in addition to the LLM review that we've seen earlier. Again, the finale will be a live event, just like what is depicted here. And your LLMs will answer questions from the judges. And these answers will be scored by three things: evaluator AI, the judges, and the audience. Okay? So the humans are, in this case, the judges and the audience who will vote on Telegram. And all these scores will be aggregated to determine who is the final winner. Okay, so that concludes the content portion of the workshop. Now let me hand it back to Ray to close off our workshop.
I'll use your slide. Use your slide. Okay, so final steps. So today was phase one of your journey, right? So phase one of your journey was to train and tune your first fine-tuned LLM. So if you didn't manage to do it in this workshop, do so after the workshop, right? And after that, continue to experiment, continue to iterate and train, and try to get a better win rate each time you train a new model. And do that for the next few weeks till 4th of April, where that, at 11:59 SGT, it will cut off, right? So then we will decide who are the top 6, or the top 1 per country, and the top 6 to enter into the finals, right? So obviously for those outside of Singapore, they will be flown into Singapore. For those who are in Singapore, the winner in Singapore, well, you won't be flying anywhere. You'll be in Singapore, right? Okay, this last slide is super important, okay? In this first part of the competition before the finals, which is the leaderboard, right, the league, your model will be judged based on comprehensiveness and accuracy. So it's important to take note of that. And if you think about it, comprehensiveness, what does it mean, right? So think about it, right? Chances are, if your generated data set has very short answers, it will probably not be comprehensive, right? So think about that. But of course, if you generate a lot of words in your answer, it must be accurate as well, right? So there's a trade-off. And then in the finals, like what Meraldo shared, aside from that judgment on comprehensiveness and accuracy, we also have the humans to judge. So you need to appease the human thinking as well. So in my blog, they actually had one question that the humans don't agree with the AI judge, right? And how do you get a high score based on that? Because the human judge gives you a high score, the AI judge gives you 0. Right, so I had one of that situation during the finals, and there's a slight twist as well in the finals. In the finals, the questions would include reasoning questions. So we would expect you to also try to fine-tune your models to answer questions like how a reasoning model like DeepSeek would, right? So it's not just a straight answer, it's an answer that gives step-by-step kind of thinking when it gives the answer. So think about how you create or craft training a data set that contains reasoning type answers as well. So you might want to go back to Party Rock and tweak the prompting to generate such answers in that way. Okay? All right, and the last thing to be aware of and super important are the 4 subtopics, right? So the theme of the competition is generative AI. So you will be asked questions about generative AI, and there are 4 main subtopics, right? Prompt engineering, foundation models, agentic AI, and responsible AI. So make sure your training data set covers the broad spectrum of these 4 subtopics. Okay. And with that, we end today's workshop. And thank you very much. And thank you, Meraldo, for sharing and also giving you the tips and tricks to train your model. And thank you to AWS as well and AISG who are the organizers of this event as well. All right. So with that, we end the session and hope to see you in the finals. Thank you. Where is it? Oh. No. Sorry, there's one important thing that we need to share as well. Okay. The slide didn't come up earlier. Okay. How do you get support after today? Okay, so every country has a separate Telegram link which you can then go to get support from the AWS team as well as from Gen C. So Gen C can advise you if you ask questions there. If there's demand to run a virtual clinic, we might do so as well. Like if hundreds of you say, hey, we would like to do a 1 hour session, question and answer session to just clarify your doubts and ask questions, we might be able to arrange that if there's demand for it. Right. So take note of your individual country links. The purpose of having different country links is so that we cater to the language nuances, so that not everybody have to ask the questions in English. Okay, and with that we really end now. And thank you very much.
Survey.
Oh,
It's an ask for a survey.
is it a survey? Survey. No.
No, it's from Vincent.
Survey. Is it a survey? Yeah. So the QR code here is for your feedback. So help us to fill in the feedback so that we can improve for future sessions. Thank you. By the way, for those in Singapore, both Marado and I, our day job we are in the finance industry doing tech. So both of us are from DBS Bank.
Just in case.
So those online, you can drop from the session.